What it do, fool? My name is Trenton Steele, aka Fatherrdiff. If you have not subscribed, you can go ahead and subscribe now. And also, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Right there, at Fatherrdiff. First things first, if you're watching this, welcome to 2021. We made it. We survived.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
Today's discussion is going to be about a question that I often get asked from people I do know and people I don't know. And when they ask me that question, I kind of hit them back with a few questions of my own to help them figure out what kind of camera they need or they want. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. The question is, what kind of camera should I get? That's a very broad question. You have to figure out what are your needs. What kind of photography are you looking at doing? Are you looking at doing family vacation? Are you looking at doing it as a side hustle and maybe taking pictures of classmates, graduation pictures, and reunions? Are you going to be doing editorial photos, possibly work for a magazine, or doing editorial fashion shoots just for your sake, nature, or are you going to be doing it just for fun? Those are things that you're going to have to consider. Next one would be a very important question, if not as important as the first one. What is your budget? If you think you're only going to spend $100 on a camera, buddy, I'm going to tell you now, no. All right. So you need to figure out your budget. If your budget is $200 to $500, cool. If your budget is $500 to $1,200, cool. If your budget is $2,000 to $4,000, cool. If your budget is $4,000 plus, man, you can buy whatever you want. You ain't got to talk to me. So that's something you have to consider. If you have a set budget of $1,200, try to stick to that. But keep in mind, if you're looking at purchasing a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, you're gonna have to also get a lens. And the lenses for the crop sensor cameras are cheaper than the full frame lenses for full frame cameras. So just keep that in mind. You have to include lenses in your budget if you're looking at doing that. Next question is, does size matter? Pause. All right, if size matters, then you probably don't want to get a DSLR because they're a little bit more bulkier and heavier, and they kind of leave a bigger footprint. I mean, take this 1DX Mark II, for example. That's a pretty beefy camera, and it is heavy. A lot of times when I let people hold it, they're like, oh my God, this is so heavy. So it has some weight to it. Now, you have a smaller full-frame camera, which is the 5D Mark IV. Both of these are by Canon. And it's a little bit lighter than I'll take that back now that I picked both of them up. This is way lighter than this, but it's still heavy. Now, those are Canons. Nikon, this is my first full frame from Nikon. It's lighter than this one, but they're still heavy and bulkier than what you would find with the mirrorless or a compact camera. So, my mirrorless camera is currently being used right now to record, which is the Sony A7S III. The compact camera would be this right here, the Fujifilm. And as you can see, the comparison between that is like ridiculous. I mean, that is like tiny. So if size matters, you're probably gonna want to get a mirrorless or a smaller crop or a compact camera. DSLRs, well, the full frame DSLRs are a little bit beefier and heavier. If size and weight matters, then you probably want to get a compact camera or a crop DSLR because they are lighter and less bulkier than the full frame DSLRs. Crop and full frame. Crop and compact. Now the next question is, does the brand matter? Sometimes people are brand whores. Let's just be honest. Sometimes people feel like, oh, well, this brand is more superior than the other one. And it be for little to no reason, all because of the brand. And that's not fair. You know, if a brand sucks, it sucks. If a brand isn't as good as another brand, it's not as good. Just because of the brand doesn't automatically make it better than the next brand. If you want to compare it and then give a feedback, that's different. But don't just say that this one's better than this one because you really, really rock with this brand. Nah, bruh. No. So my recommendation on that is try out a few different brands before you just make a decision on those lenses. On those cameras. If you're very, very headstrong on a certain brand, then fine. You just have a limited amount to choose from. Just keep that in mind. There are other brands out there than just what people rave about. My first camera was a crop sensor camera, and it was this one and this one. These are both crop sensor cameras by Nikon. One is the 5200, the other one is the 5500. Those are both crop cameras. And what I mean by crop is crop cameras are smaller than the standard 35mm sensor. That means that they have a cropped sensor inside of that camera. And the crop cameras are usually lighter and cheaper, but it comes at a cost, and that cost will be quality. Now, lenses for crop sensor cameras are less expensive. If purchasing a lens that is not made specifically for a crop sensor camera, you would not get the same focal length that it is said to be. So what I mean by that is, if you have a 50mm lens 1.4 and you put that on a crop sensor Canon, it's going to change. So the sensor on a Canon is cropped by 1.6. So you're gonna have to multiply the focal length of 50mm, which is the lens, by the sensor size, which is cropped by 1.6. So 50 times 1.6 is 80mm. So that means that you are now seeing through that viewfinder an 80mm view. It's not a 50mm view anymore. If it's a Nikon and you're putting a 50mm 1.4 on it, you're gonna multiply 50 times 1.5 because that crop changes between those two cameras. So the 50 times 1.5 will be a 75mm. Just keep that in mind. Full frame cameras have a 35mm sensor, and because of that, they have better low light quality. They have more dynamic range, better depth of field, more lens variety. You have way more lenses to choose from because these type of cameras have been around for a long time, and it's usually for more professionals. Most professionals will use a full frame camera because of that benefit. Mirrorless cameras are also full frame. They are lighter, they have great autofocus, especially for the face eye detection, and Sony has a great selection of lenses for their mirrorless cameras, whereas Canon, Nikon, and Fujifilm had just jumped over recently into the mirrorless world, so their lens selection is great, but they're still growing at the same time, whereas Sony already has a massive amount of lenses to choose from because they've been doing it a little bit longer. Compact cameras will be ideal for family photos or for the minimalist who doesn't want to carry around a full frame camera and have all the weight, or if they just want something they can stick in their pocket. The compact camera is perfect. I love that camera. That is the Fujifilm X100F. It fits in my back pocket. I take it with me to family reunions because I don't want to feel like I'm working. I take it with me when I go on vacation or when I'm out and about with my friends. You know, I just pull that out, snap, snap, snap. Cool, I'm good. It takes very good quality photos. Overall, the brand doesn't matter and the camera doesn't necessarily matter either. Now, what I mean by that is it all depends on how you operate the tool, okay? You will get great results from any camera if you know how to take advantage of that tool. You know, you have to know how to use it. You have to understand the techniques. You know, you have to play around with it to get more comfortable with it. So don't feel like you have to spend thousands of dollars on a camera, because I thought that if I went from a $500 camera to a $1,200 camera that I was automatically going to be a better photographer. Nope. No sir. No sir. Still look like crap. I mean, it looked like crap. But what I'm saying is, once you figure out the techniques to become a better photographer, then you're going to be in a lot better position. Be sure to explore your options before you make that purchase of a camera, simply because, like I said, you don't want to make that investment and now you're stuck and you spent this amount of money and you just feel down because I spent all this money and it's not doing what I wanted to do. I shouldn't have got this. You can always rent one, or you can always borrow one from a friend, a family member, and play around with theirs for a little bit. And that's going to save you some money. My personal pick right now is Sony, simply because it's winning in video, and I prefer to do more video and cinematography work than I do pictures. Now, with that being said, originally I started with Canon, but once I started playing around with more cameras, I found that Sony was better for me for video. So that's why I used Sony, which is also what I'm recording on. I also still use my Canon 5D Mark IV for editorial pictures and any type of photography, simply because it has a higher amount of megapixels, which means that I can crop more. And that's going to be important when you're dealing with certain photography. With that being said, I'm not a Canon person. I'm not a Sony person. I'm not a Nikon person. I'm not a Fujifilm person. I enjoy all of them. It just depends on which one I want to grab. Now, like I said, I personally like Sony a little bit better for their video. Well, I love Sony for their video. But right now, I don't have another Sony camera that's strictly for photography, so I'm using the Canon. I may switch over to Fujifilm for photography. I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards it. And it also seems like Fujifilm lenses are a lot cheaper than the Canon, Sony, Nikon lenses everywhere, period. So that may be my next move. But if there's anything that I missed that someone should consider before they purchase a camera, mention it in the comments below. I want to know too. I hope you guys find value from this. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Go ahead and subscribe. One last thing. Let me get up close to this. One last thing. I really appreciate you guys for getting me to 6,000 subscribers.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
That is pretty cool. I really appreciate that. I was going to give a giveaway for that, but YouTube kind of changed their laws and rules about how they go about doing that, and I didn't want to get in any trouble or anything, so I kind of set it on the back burner up until I get to 10K. That gives me more time to figure out how I should properly do it so I can make sure I'm getting this to the right person. Yeah, go ahead and subscribe. Appreciate it. Talk to me down in the comments below. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on Twitter. Wherever you can find me, talk to me. Yeah, that's it. I am out.